Brian, what does it mean to ask the question, did God create time?
Did time come from God? Is it something whose nature God determined? Did God have a choice about whether time was ever going to be there?
So how can we understand this more? Time, we know from common life, is something that seems inevitable. It's not something that it can be changed or manipulated in any way. But the more we learn about science, particularly Einstein's theory of relativity, shows that space and time are related, and time is a real thing. But when you bring God into the picture, what does that mean?
Well, if you say God created time, or if you say God doesn't create time, either way you get certain puzzles once God enters the picture. If you say God does create time, you get a puzzle about the nature of causation. Usually we think of the cause as coming before the effect in time. Well, if time isn't initially there, so to speak, there's no before time. There's no such thing as God causing before time arrives, because once you've got a before and after relation, that is time. So if God created time, you've got a question of how you can have a cause that isn't temporally before its effect.
Right.
On the other hand, if God didn't create time, but he is on the scene, then puzzles arise about what God's relationship is to time. Is it something independent of him that's just imposed on him, something he's subject to? Is it something that's somehow an aspect of his own being? In other words, is the flow of time ultimately something based on, say, the sequence of events in God's own life? Either one of those itself is a problematic claim to make. You don't want to say that anything is independent of God and imposed on him. That doesn't fit with the Christian and Jewish and biblical picture of God at all. On the other hand, if time is just an aspect of God's own being, well then how can it really be one with space the way Einstein tells us?
So, therefore, this question, did God create time, is probative of the very nature of God if you believe in God.
That's right. You can't really work out what you mean by saying that God exists unless you've got a decent answer to this.
Did God create time?
Yeah.
So what do you believe about that?
I believe that God created time, and that that's possible because God is atemporal. He's not something that was in time from the beginning and stuck with it. Instead, he always had a standpoint that would have been just the same whether time was there or not. Now, that commits me to saying that there's a causal relation between God and the beginning of time, even though there's no temporal relation. God wasn't there earlier than time began, but he was there and able to cause the beginning of time. How can that be? Well, causes don't always have to precede their effects. My hands come together, they press, they stop. There's an instant at which one hand stops the other. At that point, the two hands are in a certain position. Each is causing the other to be in that position at that moment. Causal impulses from the one are halting the other, making it be just where it is, and vice versa. So causation doesn't necessarily involve an earlier or later relation.
So that would be your understanding of God creating time.
Yes, there's a causal relation, but not a temporal relation between God and the beginning of time.
Leibniz asked a very famous question, and that is, why did God wait so long to create the universe?
That is a problem if God didn't create time, because then time was flowing along, and it's always been flowing along, and he's got to pick one particular time for the universe to begin. But if God is atemporal, he can't wait, because waiting involves being in time and having time pass before you do something. If God is not in time, there's no question of waiting. Rather, he just timelessly wills that time begin, and it does.
Is that consistent with what science knows about the relationship in space-time?
Yes, very much so, because it's a standard belief that God created matter and space. Nobody would dispute that much. If time and space are just aspects of one thing, then God, by creating space, also created time.